Hey, how's it going, world? We are Hobby Time with Team Bad Decisions. We're here to talk to you about topics that are going on in our hobby world. Today's topics are going to be kind of competitive versus non-competitive gameplay and how to play competitively without seeming like you're that person or that guy. We'll also touch on Space Marines, what's good in the meta for Space Marines right now, what would be good to play against Space Marine players if you find a lot of people are playing Space Marines at your current gaming store, or when we actually get available to play games again. And then the last one we'll talk about two color minimum versus spending a lot of time on your models, what that looks like from a competitive gaming standpoint, what that looks on for like a hobby gaming standpoint, and we'll see how that'll go. So, just a quick intro. I'm here with my friend Josh, which would be that way, and then down is Ryan, and then Matt from a previous episode. You guys want to just kind of go around and introduce yourselves, what you play, how you got into the hobby, just and why you're here, just before we get kicking everything off.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Josh. I play mostly Dark Angels, some Grey Knights, and some Imperial Knights. I got started in the hobby a few years back. My first foray into it was a Apocalypse match where I spent 16 hours asking Brandon questions about the army he let me borrow.
So
I'm Ryan. A lot of you already know me. If you're watching this, I mostly play Space Wolves now. I Imperial Guard, little Eldar, little bit of everything really. Started playing late '90s. One of those fun uncle started me. Hey, check this out! Look at this cool little figure, and went from there. So
cool, cool. And then you still play a lot of Space Wolves, but you dabbled in the 8th edition Space Marine Codex, right? Just basic Space Marines?
Yep, just a little bit. It's kind of one of those. Space Wolves are on such a heavy downturn. Even showing up to a tournament with them right now is being in the bottom half for sure. So,
Yeah. How about you, Matt? We saw you in the last episode, but
I'm a primary orc player. Can probably field. I really like to play apocalypse matches. My record right now for longest apocalypse was about 19 hours straight. Don't shake your head at me. I run a smooth ship. Okay?
So just for those
So you got
that
to what,
don't
turn
know,
two?
what is an apocalypse match?
So now opinions may differ, but in my opinion, an APOC match is 10,000 points or more each. Right now, using competitive rules and rules of 3, I can field a coherent list of probably about 18,000 points of orcs.
Okay.
Which isn't too bad. Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's good. It's decent size. Most of it's on movement trays, so I can move quickly if needed, which is strange for orc players. And then a couple backburner armies I have. I came into playing orcs in 7th edition. That's when I started the hobby. And anyone who knows 7th edition orcs, in 7th edition, it was terrible. But yeah, I have a Drukai army, and then I have a Genestealer called Brood Brother army that's on the back burner, and then I've got an AdMech army that's on a little bit of a eBay bidding block right now that we're trying to win.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like, we're moving into topic number 1, which is going to be play styles. We all know there's that guy that when you show up at a gaming store, you never really want to play. And then there's the way that you want to play your army, and then there's the way everyone else kind of plays with their stuff. So keeping the same typical order, that seemed to work. Josh, how do you play 40K? What do you think about when you build a list, and like, what do you want to get out of the game?
I am there 100% for just pure fun. So when I make a list, it's my main motivation is, wouldn't it be funny if? So I do my best not to bring really competitive lists. I bring lists that I don't have to remember a ton of rules. I don't have to try and micromanage every little thing. I'm not there to win. I'm there to have a good time.
Okay. And then, so, like, walk us through a couple seconds of, like, you're playing Dark Angels. You want to play Dark Angels. What kind of list would you bring? If you're just there for fun.
So I don't know if this is a really fun list right now because it's been a while since I've been able to play, but I just have been working on my 2,000 point list. It's got 3 Storm Raven gunships and a ton of bikes.
Okay.
And that's it.
What would be a ton of bikes in, like, it's, what, 12 bikes or...
Depending on Black Knights or just regular bike squads. So on my desk right now, I've got 20 bikes and a Dark Shroud, and then 3 unpainted gunships.
Okay. And that's kind of what your typical friendly list? You don't see people like, we watch them deflate when they realize who they're playing against? You show up with, like, your...
I do my best to be as non-intimidating. I'm a rather large guy, so sometimes that happens, but I try and make it very clear that I'm there to have fun. So there's been a couple times where I've pulled up at a table and I'm start moving stuff and they're giving me the third degree. And I'll look at them, I said, are we going to play that kind of game? Because I can play that kind of game, but that's not how I want to play. And that usually immediately deflates it and it's smooth sailing after.
Okay. And do you feel like that upfront, honest, and communication between you and your player, like, helps in the long run of the whole game, or?
Oh, definitely. Because I've played against some, like, especially like at the Michigan GT, played against people that place top 5, and my game is nothing like what other people experience against them, because they know that I'm not there to, oh, you move 2.5 inches, not 2 inches, you know?
Okay. So, I guess this plays on it too, and we'll get around to everybody, but what makes that guy? Because you could take any army and play it like that guy and then get a negative response from other people. So what have you experienced in the past that have led you feel like, oh, I'm playing that person. I'm playing the guy I don't want to play against? What kind of actions do they do, or what kind of things have happened to you that trigger that?
I can usually tell immediately when you roll up at a table and there's no chit-chat. You try and just shoot the shit while you're setting up your army or looking through the rules real quick. If they're like strictly straight to business, usually you can tell right away that it's not going to be an enjoyable game.
Okay. How about you, Matt? What do you go through when you're building a list? When you're thinking about lists, what do you?
Well, I mean, it all depends on how I feel. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you're building like an orc list, there's no soup, there's no additives. The whole orc army inventory is like a big utility knife that only does one thing. So it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Maybe I'll bring 90 storm boys to a table and do a hammer and anvil style. Maybe I'll do one list that I've been favoring is 20 mega knobs, tank bustas, and something in between to a pressure list. It all depends. It all depends what I'm trying to achieve. But yeah, I've stopped playing hordes, because it gets annoying and it's hard to move around and it gets repetitive. That's the one thing I've stopped doing.
Yeah, and I think hordes and correct me if I'm wrong, hordes get a bad rap from a couple players or some people that play hordes for the sole purpose of they're easy to slow play without seeming like you're trying to slow play and win on the axis that other people aren't necessarily playing on. Right,
so that is correct. And I have taken steps to mitigate or completely remove that that image. So if I am going to run hordes, if I'm running 30 models or more, each one of those units is going to be on a magnetized movement tray that is also color coded, so that they can't say I'm blending units together or attempting to do slow play. Because if I can deploy 200 plus models in less than 2 minutes and 50 seconds, you have no basis to say, hey, you're slow playing. That my famous Rage Box dice shaker, that was for horde play. So I could roll 60 shots in one pop or 120. It's all about what you want to play as, and then my play style is high energy, really pumped to be there. I like to learn my opponent's name because, like we've stated in the past, this is a social game. It's not a chess match or a golf match. You're not going there to be quiet. Yeah, and going off what Josh said, you really know what kind of opponent you're going to play in that first 35 seconds of interaction when you roll up on the table. If an opponent doesn't even say hello to me, I know I'm not going to have a good time.
I can see that.
Yeah, and then you kind of, those of you who have like played around me, they know that I get loud. Sometimes I dance. I get really excited to be there, but I still run a semi-competitive list, and I still try to win because, playing for fun that's fine if that's your prerogative. But I still want to challenge myself and see what I can achieve by bringing, a list where the entire list moves up to, 80% of the board in one pop. That's craziness. That's a fun way to play. But yeah, you can. I call them House of Cards players. Like the when people build cards or build houses out of the cards, right?
Yeah.
And it takes all their patience and whatnot. I'm one of those guys that bumps the table and the house of cards goes down, and then you look at their faces. So that's a lot of the players that I come across are House of Cards players, and I'm cannonball into a kiddie pool player.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
So your strategy is just be unpredictable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make, is that you could bring a good list, you could play a good game, and you could leave your opponent not feeling like they just got steamrolled.
Absolutely. Sometimes I bring snacks. So a lot of people, and I know Nick will probably not like me for this, because I've never brought a display board, but I have a green WOG box. Okay, and the WOG box sometimes has Bang energy drinks in it. Not sponsored. Sandwiches, candy bars. I have handed an opponent a Snickers bar before because he was a little hangry. Okay.
Right.
I was like, we're not going to do that here. We're both adults. You're like 45, and I'm 30. You're not going to, no, have a Snickers.
Ryan, how about you? What goes into your head when you're making a list? If you're going to try and be competitive, what would you change about that? And if you're not trying to be competitive, what goes in your head in those two instances?
Well, it entirely depends. I mean, the last tournament I went to, I took one Warhound Titan. And I was there to have a good time. And it was one of those great, I haven't been to a tournament in 4 months. Oh, hey, there's one over here. All right, yeah, I'll go. Well, I think that ended up being, about half of the tournament turnout was team bad decisions. And I went through, I think I ended up playing one or two of our guys, and I loved it. What's a Warhound do? Runs up the field, takes 2 shots. That's my turn.
Yeah, it's just for those who are not aware, the Warhound Titan is a 2,000 point, one model, 30 some wounds, right?
35 wounds, 2 weapons. That's it.
Toughness
I
9, yeah.
think
Is that the one
base.
with the flamers that do like 16?
Yeah, it's 4d6 shots, auto hit. I think they're strength 7, AP 3 flamers.
Yeah, so
It's
they'll kill two things. But I think
yeah.
when people
Oh,
look at it,
reliably.
they get scared, but they're like, "Oh, it's one model. It shoots two things. It kills two things. I've got more than 10 units on the table, which means I won't get tabled." And then
Yep.
maybe you see some people calm down.
Yep. And I mean, I made it perfectly clear to everyone I was playing that I was just there to have a good time, hang out with everybody, get out of the house pretty much before we were all confined to quarters.
Yeah, this whole
But
quarantine thing.
yeah, but before that, I had put together. Saying I play Space Wolves, they're fairly modular. I have the same 200 some odd models that I build and rebuild, and I've got enough bits to make about any basic Marine out of the 1.5 million bits I've got. I put together a basic Marine, just vanilla Marine, second founding chapter, and I used it for the Michigan GT. Pretty much the entire list was all built with bolt guns. That was it. I was really banking on all of the, at the time, they were the new bolter discipline rules, and that, along with the tactical doctrine and whatnot, just, I've got 70 guys with bolters. Let's see how many shots I can put out in one turn. Well, it turns out a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, I gunned down about half of an orc horde in one turn. That was fun. Still didn't win, but I killed about half of them. So, moral victory for me.
Nice.
But,
It always feels good when you gun down half of a horde and they just start plucking models.
yeah.
I mean, that's another way to but from the player of the horde perspective, you know that yes, you're playing a horde, but you're giving some of that to your opponent. Like, I know that 75 to 80% of my models are going to die, and that's going to feel good to them.
Yep.
Instead of we'll touch on it when we talk about those guys, but Tau, who their whole play style revolves around, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to play one really good phase of shooting, which is not an interactive phase. It's, I do a bunch of stuff and you pick up models. It's not like close combat where it's like I hit you, you hit me, we both die, things happen. Shooting is very one-directional. And for an army that specializes in that one direction, it could feel pretty salty on the other side that turn one, you're going at the bottom of turn one, and you pick up, a third to a half of your army that you just put down, and just to pick it up again. Which may be where we get some of the hate. But I play a lot of Eldar, and Eldar are one of the, like Matt mentioned, kind of Swiss Army knife armies out there, where we have these things called aspect warriors, and each aspect is good at something. So if I was going to build a competitive Eldar army, I would look at what I thought was going to be brought to that tournament, and I would bring maxed out aspects of the thing that would beat that army. For instance, Space Marines, for a lot of time later on in 8th, and even still a little bit now, there's a lot of Space Marines in the meta. So Dark Reapers are great at killing Space Marines. They put out a lot of shots at 1 strength higher than a Space Marine toughness, so strength 5. They're AP -2, and they're 2 wounds. So you're picking up Primaris Marines on a 5-up save with 2 shots apiece, and you bring 15 of them. So you're deleting Space Marine squads from a competitive aspect. If I wanted to tool it down, I wanted to bring a more friendly list, yeah, maybe I still bring one unit of Dark Reapers. I want to play the game. I don't want to just. No one's there to not try and win, but I'll bring one unit of
Okay.
Swooping Hawks, and then
No,
which are
okay.
the low strength Imperial Guard killers. Then you bring one unit of
Okay.
Striking Scorpions, which no one should ever bring because they're just not good, but you just bring them anyway. And then you bring some, I don't know, some Banshees or some of the other stuff out there. It's, I think, a competitive list when I can spot one when I look at a table and it's 3 copies of 3 different units. Like they cherry picked the best 3 things they could possibly bring. They brought the maximum of each thing, and they're just gonna put the pedal to the floor and run those 3 great units down someone's throat. But